Good evening and welcome to another rockin' edition of the Florida Gambling Boys on YouTube. It's the Football Frenzy. I am your host, the magnificent one, Sean Mayall. If you noticed, has a work engagement and Super Dave Kreitz has to work this evening. So, it's just me. I am your chief cook and bottle washer tonight. Doesn't mean we can't talk football, and there's a lot to get to. Quick recap of last week. College, I was 3-1. Continue my hot streak in college football, 29-13 on the season. And I had a clean sweep in the NFL with the Vikings and the Texans and the Dolphins. Pushes our record in the NFL to 15-8. All numbers that make you lots of money. I hope you're following along. I don't think we've had a losing week yet this year. Having said that, let's start with the NFL. And I'm going to throw a question out to everybody that's watching, following along. And feel free to throw a comment with your answers in the chat. Or if you have a general question, throw it in there, and I'll make sure we get an answer for you. Our producer, Zach, will let me know if there's questions, and I'll get you an answer to whatever games you're interested in. So my question for everybody in YouTube land tonight is, which is the bigger shit show? Would it be the Dallas Cowboys' performance on the field this year? Or would it be the atrocity and farce that was put on last Friday night at Dallas Stadium in the Tyson-Paul fight? I'm not sure which is worse. I couldn't stomach watching another minute of Mike Tyson last week, but I can't stomach watching another minute of the Dallas Cowboys this year. Cooper Rush is awful. I mean, just awful. And they don't have, outside of CeeDee Lamb, that team has no talent offensively whatsoever. Now, Jake Ferguson's hurt, their tight end. The defense is just banged up and nowhere near as good as they have been in years past. I think we're going to see Micah Parsons want to trade in the offseason. Having said that, they're at the Commanders this week. I believe the line's 10.5. As much as I hate Dallas and they're struggling, I'm not willing to lay double digits with Washington just yet. I think there's better games on the card. One game of major interest to me will be the Tennessee Titans, and they're on the road at the Houston Texans. And we saw the thumping that Houston put on Dallas last week. All the difference in the world with them now that they have Nico Collins back at wide receiver. Stroud looks so much more confident with him and Tank Dells and Mixon. And they'd be even better if they still had Stephon Diggs, but they don't. Having said that, the Titans offer nothing to me of value. Their offense is anemic, defense average at best. I think the Texans lay the 8 and cover this number at home rather easily. So I am on the Houston Texans this week. Another game I'm interested in, and this is a weird one. When it comes to division matchups, I usually like to stay away, but this one offers a little bit of value to me. The Bears are at home getting 3.5 from the Minnesota Vikings. So you got a home dog getting 3.5 against a team now playing their third consecutive road game. Now, having said that, these teams are not exactly that they played world beaters. That was at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, and now at the Bears. But it's still 3 straight weeks on the road. So it's one of the reasons I lead to the Bears. I also thought that Caleb Williams looked really good last week. New offensive coordinator. They changed the system to kind of fit his skill set. I thought he looked much more comfortable in the pocket. Again, Sam Darnold is not blowing anybody's skirt up this year. Started off hot. He's been regular old Sam Darnold the past 3 or 4 weeks here. I'm going to take the Bears, and I'm going to take the 3.5 points with the Bears at home. I may be wrong, and maybe the Vikings go in there and smoke them, but I'll take the Bears with the 3.5. I'm very torn on this next game. People might want to call me a homer. Fire away. I am a Steelers fan. Steelers play tomorrow night on the road in Cleveland. Steelers coming off a huge win against the Ravens. Now the offense wasn't sparkling. 6 Chris Boswell field goals. Second time this year they've won with just 6 Chris Boswell field goals. But a win's a win in a rivalry game like that. It's not a long trip to Cleveland from Pittsburgh. And I just think the Browns suck. Jameis Winston threw for 395 last week. Great. But it was all in garbage time. You know, there it says, well, Jerry Jeudy had 6 catches for 134 yards. Guess what? 89 of them came on one play. So I just think these are fluff stats that are very misleading. I think the Steelers' pass rush gets after Jameis, who to me is a little bit immobile. Browns' offensive line really banged up. And if the Steelers do get Alex Highsmith back tomorrow night, I always want to call him Hightower from Police Academy. Oh, we got it. I am on the Steelers. Minus the 3.5 on the road at the Browns. We have a question from the chat already. Zach, fire away.
So John Gallagher, he says, yo, Big Papa Pump, give me the thoughts on the Eagles in LA Sunday night. Maybe I missed it.
All right, so John in Mayfair, who's a friend of mine, long time, close friend. John, I haven't heard that be called a Big Papa Pump in a while. John wants to know thoughts on the Eagles game. They are the Sunday night game at the Rams. This is a tough game, John. First, you have the Birds coming off a mini bye since they played last Thursday against Washington. Long trip out west. Is it a tad of a look ahead for the Eagles? Because I believe they have the Ravens the following week. This is a tough spot in the schedule. I do expect the Eagles to probably have a 50% fan base in SoFi Stadium. Eagles fans travel very well. So I bet you there's 35,000, 40,000 Eagles fans at this game. If you have to put a gun to my head, I'll take the Rams with the points. It's not a game I'm going to bet. Although you never know. After you got to see how you make out Sunday. It might be a bailout game. But right now, it's not a game I'm going to play. Eagles secondary and linebackers have looked better over the past few weeks. But I wonder how they really match up with Cooper Kupp, since nobody in the league can guard Cooper Kupp. And same goes for Puka Nacua. So I would lean the Rams here, but again, it's nothing that's going to get any action out of my pocket for this game. But thanks for the question, John. Much love. John in Mayfair, always good to hear from my buddy. Having said that, there's not a whole lot else. I may took a look at the Dolphins. They got the Patriots coming to town, and maybe this is part of the Dolphins' resurgence. They were 3-6. I think they were 2-6 before they won that Rams Monday night game. They beat a crappy Raiders team. And now they get the Patriots. That might be something to look at. Otherwise, another game my interest is peaked in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off a bye, are on the road at the Giants. And the Bucs are laying 5. I have seen a couple 5.5s. Mike Evans is back this week, which is a blessing for Baker Mayfield. So that's a huge plus for them. Danny Dimes is on the bench. and he's been relegated to third string. So that means Tommy DeVito gets the start for the G-Men. Good old Tommy Cutlets behind the helm. I think the Bucs win this game. As long as their offensive line holds up, because the pass rush of the Giants, their defensive line's about the only thing they have going for them. But I think the Bucs are in a great spot, especially if you're a teaser player. I would look at teasing the Bucs down to +1, or if this gets up to 6, tease them down to even. And maybe you stick them with Denver and take Denver down and go against a scuffling Raiders team. Or maybe want to take the Chiefs down in a game that I think is a get-right game for the Chiefs. And they probably go into Carolina and blow their doors off. But look at throwing the Bucs in as a teaser. Otherwise, my 3 NFL picks for the week: the Steelers minus the 3.5, the Bears catching 3.5 at home, and Houston minus the 8. And that'll say that for the NFL. Again, feel free to chime in with your answers to my question: which is the bigger shit show, Cowboys on the field or the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight? Both of them took place in Dallas Stadium. Oof, I don't even know which is worse out of those two. I don't know which, if you gave me $10,000, which I'd rather watch more of. But I'll let you answer that. Let's move on to college football. Weird week this week in college football. We have a lot of FCS, FBS matchups. I think Furman in South Carolina, or Winthrop in South Carolina. Furman and Clemson. Alabama's playing some Sisters of the Poor and Illiterate. So you're going to see a lot of teams beaten up. Georgia's another one that's got a cupcake. But who cares about those games? The big game on the card this week is the Ohio State Buckeyes at home against the undefeated and, I think, slightly overrated Indiana Hoosiers. Look, the Hoosiers are a great story. Undefeated. Have played a cupcake schedule. No, they haven't had to play Oregon or Penn State or the schedule's been crap. They've beat up on the Northwesterns and the Minnesotas and the Marylands. I think they dropped 58 on Charlotte early in the year. I mean, it's great you're undefeated, but now you're playing with the big boys. You got to go into the horseshoe. And I think this is a great spot for Ohio State. The number surprises me being as short as it is. I thought 12 was a little light. I expected this to come in somewhere in the range of 14.5 to 15. I think if you can get Ohio State at less than 2 touchdowns, maybe it's close in the first half, but Ohio State steps on the gas in the second half, and I think they cover the number. It's not a game I'm going to play. I will watch. I wish this game wasn't at noon. I know television dictates everything, but this should be. It's the biggest game of the week, and Fox wants to stick it on at noontime. Thanks, Fox. Who else we got on the card ranked this week? Remember, guys, I do this all from memory. I don't have any notes because I can't see my own writing because I'm visually impaired. So, Miami comes off a bye at home against Wake Forest. Big line, 24. Miami's last game out, they lost to Georgia Tech. So maybe this is a get-right game. Maybe this is a game, if Cam Ward is still in the hunt for the Heisman, that he has to come out and make a statement and drop half 100 on Wake. And maybe they do cover it. Not a game I'm interested in. I believe 16th ranked SMU is laying 9.5, and they are at Virginia. Kind of interested in this game. I don't know. Do we see the real Virginia Wahoos this week? They played really tough in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. Pittsburgh's scuffling right now. They've lost 3 in a row to SMU, Virginia, and Clemson, 2 of which they probably should have won. If that Virginia team shows up defensively and stops the run, because we know SMU can run the rock, that line's 9.5. I'm going to take the points with Virginia at home. I think they can pull the upset, but I like the 9.5, so I'll be on Virginia this week. Let's see, what else are we on? A very interesting game. Kansas and Colorado. Now remember that this game is being played at Arrowhead Stadium. It's a neutral site game, more of a home advantage for Kansas. This is a 3:30 game on Saturday. The line right now sits at, I've seen it between 2 and 2.5. I have more interest in the total. I believe the total is at 58. It might have gone up, but I'm going to go off 58. I think it's an over game. I really do. I mean, Colorado's defense has improved. Kansas, who is better than their 4-6 record, has shown all year long. Jalen Daniels is a hell of a quarterback. We saw what Kansas can do 2 weeks in a row. They beat Iowa State, and they go into BYU last weekend, and what everyone thought was a pretty good BYU team, but I think now they've been proven that they're a bit of a fraud. They beat them on the road last week. So, can they beat Colorado? Yeah, they can. But I think both teams will put up points. You know, at 58, whether it's 58 or 59, you're asking both teams to put up 30 points. We know Colorado can do that in their sleep. And now that we're starting to see the real Kansas team, you know, Kansas wins out, they can go bowl eligible. So I'm staying away from the side, but I'll be on the total here. I'll take over the total. I have no interest in Texas this week. I mean, Texas is another team. What do we really know? They've played a cupcake schedule. They played one real team in Georgia, and they got beat at home. Boise State, an interesting team. They're fighting for their playoff lives. Quite realistically, I think it's down to Boise, Tulane, and Army. And we'll get to Army Notre Dame in a second. But those are your 3 teams that are fighting to be the Group of 5 champion. Boise's at Laramie at War Memorial Stadium in Laramie, Wyoming this weekend, laying 22. It's a big number. What scares me even more, and looking at some of the weather this weekend, they're calling for upwards of 10 inches of snow during game time on Saturday. So as much as I like Boise and Ashton Junte and his Heisman chances, I'm not laying 22 in a snowstorm in Laramie. I can't do it. And Boise was lucky to cover against San Jose last week. San Jose jumps out to a 14-0 lead. And if it was not for a garbage pick 6 at the end of the game, San Jose covers the 14.5-point spread. So I don't think Boise looks ahead to their last game of the year, which is Oregon State, because Oregon State's trash this year. Does Boise win it? I think so. But I'm just not willing to lay that many points. We were talking about BYU, and they showed their true colors last week, guys. Now they go on the road against a 2-loss Sun Devil team in Arizona State. I'm tempted to take the 3 with BYU and see if they rebound, but I think Arizona State offers too much on offense for BYU to handle. And I don't like the kid Retzlaff, the quarterback for BYU. I mean, what did he throw for last week against a putrid Kansas defense? I think he threw for like 169 yards. No thanks. The total's tempting here at 48.5. But I'm going to take Arizona State in this game, and I'll lay the 3 points. If it goes to 3.5, I'll buy it down a half point down to 3. What else we got? We were going to talk about Army and Notre Dame. You never know what you're going to get with these service academy teams against Notre Dame. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a neutral site game as well. It's being played at Yankee Stadium. Notre Dame's a 14.5-point favorite right now. We saw what they did to Navy, and now Navy's lost a couple in a row after they got bombed by Tulane last week. But if you listen to the show, you know we've all been big supporters of Tulane this year. They got a really nice football team. Army, I think, is better than Navy offensively. They can throw the ball a little bit, especially compared to previous year's service academy teams who, if they throw the ball 3-4 times a game, you're lucky. This Army team can go spread with 3-4 wide receivers and throw the ball. Having said that, I just think Notre Dame has rounded into form a little bit. They end the year at USC, which I don't consider that a look-ahead game. I think Notre Dame covers the number here again and ends Army's dream season. I think whoever they played in the championship of that conference, Tulane was going to beat them anyways, but certainly would have been more impactful to have an undefeated Army against an undefeated or one-loss Tulane team. And it's weird this year the way it breaks down. If Army were to get, and there was a chance a few weeks ago that Army and Navy could have played for the conference title. Well, those two would have played for the conference title before they even played their regular season game at the end of the year. That's some misfit scheduling right there. Something they may have to look into next year. But I like Notre Dame here. It's a big number, but I just think they have too much size in the offensive line and defensive line for Army. Nothing out west to really like this week. The Big 12 is just such a crap shoot right now. The SEC, the Florida Gators. That's what the hat says here, kids. It is great to be a Florida Gator. Huge win for the program last week. Maybe save Billy Napier's job, although I don't think he's going to get fired because he's owed too much money next year and they don't want to pay him that on a buyout and whatnot. Ole Miss, a lot to play for. The line's 9.5. The Gators, now they have their starting quarterback back, are much more competitive on offense, and they're a pretty decent defensive team. I got to look real hard at taking Florida plus the 9.5. If they give any kind of performance close to last week against LSU at the Swamp, they can beat Ole Miss outright. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, will they? I don't know. I think Lane Kiffin knows how much is on the line here for his team, a possible playoff berth. So I think they win, but I think this is much closer than people think. Yeah, it sounded like Lee Corso there. Closer than the experts think. I'm going to take the Gators plus the 9.5. I see this as like a 26-23 type game. With either team could win this game. But I'll definitely take the 9.5. Might even think about buying it up to 10. Same thing with Virginia against SMU. Might think about buying that up to 10 as well. Not a huge fan of buying half points, but in certain spots, I will. So I think that's pretty much everything I'm looking at in college football this week. So we're going to be on the Florida Gators, plus 9.5. We're going to be on the Virginia Cavaliers, or the Wahoos, as I like to call them, plus 9.5. And we're going to be on the over to 58 in the Colorado game. Going to be on Notre Dame minus the 14.5. And going to be on the Arizona State Sun Devils minus 3. I know that's 5 picks, a little more than I usually give. But I do like those games. I'll make the Gators my dog of the week. Either one of them or Virginia would work. But for an official pick, I'll make the Gators my dog of the week. Since my dog of the week is 8-1 this year. Gotta love those numbers. And I'm thinking that's pretty much everything. I don't think we missed too much else. You know, we could talk about the bowl subdivision, the bowl playoff series. It doesn't mean anything. We know Indiana's not going to stay number 5 unless they upset Ohio State. They lose and they get blown out, they may very well drop out altogether. Ohio State could very well move up. Could Miami move up from 9? Yeah, they're going to have to win out and win the conference title. They're going to have to beat SMU, which is not going to be easy. And I believe they end the year at Syracuse. Syracuse is a weird team this year. They might give Miami fits, but that's next week's problems. Next week is rivalry week. Sometimes you catch teams looking ahead and napping because they're worried about their in-state rivals. I mean, next week you're going to have Clemson, South Carolina, and Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida, Florida State, Texas, Texas A&M. Does Texas look ahead to that? Because that A&M's still alive in the SEC. That's a huge matchup Thanksgiving night. Oregon's final game, since they've already played the Civil War, they end with Washington at home. I don't think that's a look ahead. Big rivalry game, but I think they'll be okay there. Of course, you've got Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan is molten hot garbage this year. I don't think Ohio State struggles with them. And of course, then you've got every other rivalry game in the book. You got Arkansas LSU next Friday afternoon, and then you get all the games where they play for Uncle Elmer's Oaken Bucket or Paul Bunyan's Log Cabin, or they all play for these crazy, stupid trophies that mean a tremendous amount to the schools, but it's comical to everybody else in the country. But we'll worry about those games next week. Like I said, guys, feel free to go in the comments. Even after the show, if you put a question in there, I'll jump on there, answer a question. Or Tom or Dave, they can do that too. They can answer a question for you if you have a question for somebody specific. Remember to go on the channel. Please give us a subscribe and a like and a follow. We've seen a big uptick in our subscription on YouTube. So, guys, that's thanks to you. Keep it growing.
John's got another question for you.
Oh, we got one more question.
John wants to know if you can commit to a cameo visit first of the year from John from Mayfair live at the Seabreeze. First of the year.
Wow. John from Mayfair wants to know if we can handle a cameo visit here at the Seabreeze Lounge after the first of the year. So, John, you know you're always welcome. And we would value your opinions. Now, we're not going to be talking Phillies baseball. And we certainly won't waste their time on the Sixers in the process. Or Joel Embiid, that waste of space. Yeah, bro, you're always welcome on the show. You know that. Much love. I thank you, as always, to our kind hosts here at the Seabreeze Lounge. Terry and Karen, the owners. Great bar, guys. You're in the area, you come check it out. I wouldn't steer you wrong. Other than that, I'd look to my left as usual or look to my right, but there's nobody there. So I won't bother with that. So it's just me signing off. I am the magnificent one, Sean Mayall, again at the Seabreeze Lounge. It's the Florida Gambling Boys on YouTube. Make sure you smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week, hopefully with a full cast of characters on the Football Frenzy Show. Guys, have a great week, and cash those tickets. Don't trash them.